the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the JPs and the Morgans, all of them together. Back in the day, they were bankers, but they didn't trust banks. Imagine that. These wealthy, some of the wealthiest families in history were all bankers, and they didn't trust banks to hold and warehouse their capital. So they had to find a better place to warehouse their capital. And what they found out is that banks were not the safest place to warehouse capital. What they found is that giant mutually owned insurance companies had stood the test of time through the Great Depression, through the hardest times in history. And the insurance companies always stood strong, stood proud, always upheld on their promises, always upheld on their contracts. And they said, that's who we need to warehouse our money with. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me tell you a story that is one that I always remember and one that all of you should carve into your minds and never forget. It's a story about a little boy and a father. And the father had a ritual every morning that he did, and he came down and he made his coffee and he opened his paper up and he read in that paper his favorite articles, which sometimes were the financial news, sometimes were just hot topics that were going on in the world. And one day his little son, who was just a little boy, comes up and says to dad, he says, Dad, you're always so busy. We never get to play. Can we have just one day where we play together? And the father felt remorse and felt bad and said, son, absolutely. This Saturday, we're going to play all day long. And the son's so excited, said, yes, Dad, I can't wait. So fast forward to that Saturday, the father, because he had a morning ritual of reading the paper and drinking his coffee, got up extra early. And he went downstairs, he made his coffee, and he's reading his paper, and he gets into an article in the Financial Times about the markets are going to explode. And he wants to read this, and he's getting deep into this. And all of a sudden he feels a tug on his pants, his leg. And it's his little boy. His little boy looks up at him and says, Dad, are you ready to go? I can't wait. We're going to play all day long. I've been waiting for this day my whole life. And the father very quickly feels excitement, also feels remorse, because he's like, I got to finish this article. So quickly, the father comes up with a plan. He says, absolutely, son. But before we go outside and play, I want to put a puzzle together. I want to play a game with you inside. And he tears one of the pages of that paper out that had a picture of the world. And he rips it up into a whole bunch of pieces. And he throws those pieces down on the glass table. And he says to his son, he says, son, let's put this puzzle together. Let's construct this. And as soon as you're done putting this puzzle together, we're going to go outside and we're going to play ball and we're going to have a grand old time. And the son smiles and says, yes, Dad, thanks. I'm going to work on this. So the father goes back into reading his article. And he's, again, getting deep into this story about the markets crashing and all this stuff going on. And all of a sudden, he hears his son say, Dad, I'm done. And the father closes the paper and looks over at his son. And sure enough, right there on the glass table was a picture of the world all constructed. And the father, confused and excited that his son was able to do this, says to his son, he says, son, how did you do that so fast? And the little boy looks up at the dad with a big old grin on his face. And he says, Dad, well, when I first started, it was so hard. I almost gave up. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And a piece of the puzzle fell on the ground. And as I went down to grab that piece of the puzzle, I looked up underneath the glass table and I saw what looked to be a picture of a man. So what I did, Dad, is from under the table, I started to construct a picture of the man. Piece by piece, I put the man together. And when I came up and I looked at the top of the table, there it was. A picture of the world had taken shape. And the father looked down and realized something. And the father realized in this very moment that one of the most important things in life is, first, you have to put the man together. And when you do that, the world takes shape. I tell you that story because what we're going to talk about today is something that doesn't happen overnight. Something that some would say takes a marathon, some takes time. And a lot of people are in a big rush when it comes to wealth and building money. But sometimes we have to put the man together, or woman together in this case. And that is, you have to get the knowledge, the wisdom, and the know-how to do something. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go into what is the fourth episode of a 5-part series that Brent, myself, and Stephen all began, teaching all of you how money really works and teaching you about the infinite banking concept, a concept that's been around for a while, pioneered by Nelson Nash. He took what the banks did and he said, I want to teach people how to take back the banking functions in their own lives. And in doing that, he wrote the book, Becoming Your Own Banker, which has been a paramount book. It's been almost a Bible, if you will, for those of us that really practice the infinite banking concept. But, this concept and what we're going to talk about, which is nothing more than privatized banking, didn't start with Nelson Nash. You see, this has been around for hundreds of years. Started and created maybe, and nobody really knows. I've created a video on YouTube called The History of the Infinite Banking Concept. It was probably created by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the JPs and the Morgans, all of them together. Back in the day, they were bankers, but they didn't trust banks. Imagine that. These wealthy, some of the wealthiest families in history were all bankers, and they didn't trust banks to hold and warehouse their capital. So they had to find a better place to warehouse their capital. And what they found out is that banks were not the safest place to warehouse capital. What they found is that giant mutually owned insurance companies had stood the test of time through the Great Depression, through the hardest times in history. And the insurance companies always stood strong, stood proud, always upheld on their promises, always upheld on their contracts. And they said, that's who we need to warehouse our money with. That's who needs to hold our money. But you know what? You can't just walk into a giant insurance company. You guys are all welcome to try it. Walk in there with your suitcase of money and say, Mr. Insurance Company, I want to deposit my cash, my wealth, my capital in your insurance company. The insurance company will say, security, we got a crazy one. Show them out. And they will show your ass out the door, because insurance companies aren't banks. However, these smart individuals, the JPs, the Morgans, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, figured out there was a way, an unconventional way, but a way to warehouse their capital in these insurance companies. It was through a vehicle that you all know so well, and all of you hate because of misinformation and because of the lies you've been taught your entire life. And that tool, that machine, that product is a whole life insurance policy. And what they did is they found out that they can construct and design and engineer a whole life to function and work similar to their bank accounts. But in doing this engineering of this contract, this whole life insurance contract, they also found out that they can tap into the guarantees, the promises, and the stability and the financial strength of giant mutually owned insurance companies. And that's where it began. And you can all do the homework. You don't need to believe myself. You don't need to believe Brent. You don't need to believe Steven. None of us matter. We're just a little spoke in this giant wheel called the wealth system that is created in today's world. But you can do this research and you can ask and look and see who has used this system, who has used these products and these tools, as we like to call them, to warehouse their wealth and to use as banking systems. And you will find out that people like Walt Disney created Walt Disney World with a loan from his New York Life policy using this system. Then you go on and you look at Ray Kroc. Some would say, the pioneer of McDonald's as it is today, but really McDonald's, as Ray created it, was a real estate company, not a hamburger company. And to start that real estate division, that real estate ownership, which is what made McDonald's what it is today, he used his whole life insurance policies. And then you go up and you can look at Doris Christopher, you can look at Warren Buffett, you can look at our sitting president, Joe Biden, you can look at McCain before he passed. All of them openly used this tool to run their wealth through. Maybe not all their wealth, but to a large portion of it. And then you got to ask yourself, is it because all these families, these wealthy individuals, is it because they're stupid? Or do maybe they know something you don't know? Do maybe they know something that Dave Ramsey doesn't know? Do maybe they know something that Susie Orman doesn't know? Well, that's for all of you to find out. We're just here to show you the path, to show you the way, to teach you what we've learned up to this point. And the best part about myself and Brent and everything else you're going to hear is we are just beginning our learning curve too. We know maybe a lot more than you do. We've been using this a lot longer than you have, but you know what? This is the infinite banking concept, not the limited banking concept. So therefore, we are continually and always learning how to do this. We are continually and always learning trying to find, I would say this is a journey that we've been on, trying to find a better tool, a better machine than this stupid whole life to use in this infinite banking concept process, which the infinite banking concept is nothing more than a process of moving your money the same way banks do. The tool that we use, the machine, the whole life policy, just happens to be the most efficient place that we can run our money through. But we are always searching. And if somebody can show us a better tool, a better machine, a better place that we can run our money through, that we can earn uninterrupted compound interest without having to work any harder, without having to work any longer, and without having to take on any risk, we will gladly, openly, and thankfully change every one of our presentations and change how we teach this. But until that day, life goes on, and that stupid whole life will be the machine we use, because it's the same machine the banks use, the same machine those families use. And you know what? If it's good enough for the banks to hold their tier one capital, and if the banks are the number one purchasers of whole life, not IUL, not UL, not VUL, none of those are what banks buy. They buy whole life insurance, commonly called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance, to hold their tier one capital. Until they change that, and until we find that, this is what it is. And nobody, I mean nobody, can argue that, argue the facts, or can argue why and how they use this. So Brent, let's dive into this topic. I've got some really exciting stuff that I want to go into, because one of the biggest things, Brent, that we hear is a lot of people get so hung up and so caught up in the fact that they're going to put their capital into this specially designed whole life, their private bank, BYOB. And then what they got to do to get their money is they got to borrow their money. They got to take a loan from the insurance company to borrow their money. And right off the bat, warning flags go up. All these things that everybody else has told them, oh, this is a scam, this is everything else, go off, because they're thinking, why would I borrow my own money? And why would I pay interest to the insurance company to use the money that I already created, the money that I've already saved? Why would I do that? And the answer lies in a very simple answer, but this is what I want to debunk today. And I want to spend a good amount of time, because Andrew and I have literally dug deep into this to show one thing. Mathematics, Albert Einstein's mathematics, showing compound interest. We are today going to show you pure mathematics behind why and how you should be using this vehicle to do this, because of a common thing called compound interest and a spread between what you earn and what you get to keep. Because that's what life's about, right? What you earn and what you keep. It's not what you earn that matters, it's what you keep. Well, it's the same game here, because it doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you get to keep. And we got to get rid of tax man. We got to get rid of risk, volatility. We got to beat inflation, which we already showed you how to do that with this. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I'm just on a rant today, because this morning, man, I was on fire.
Chris, man, great stuff. And yeah, I'm going to just kind of elaborate on the point. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And anyway, so just like coming from the chiropractic industry, I would ask other chiropractors, because I used to coach chiropractors on the sales and marketing of their business. And I would always ask these chiros, I would say, hey, let's say you had a choice of two clinics. And basically clinic number one, you collect in revenue $1 million, but your overhead is $900,000. So collections are 1 million, but overhead is 900,000. You're thinking, all right, I got a good clinic collecting $1 million. But how about if you add choice number two, where now you have a clinic collecting $300,000, but your overhead is okay, but all right, but your overhead is 150,000. So what clinic would you rather have? Would you rather have the one that's collecting 1 million and has a $900,000 overhead, which gives you a $100,000 net profit? Or would you rather have the clinic that is collecting $300,000 and has a $150,000 overhead? And now you have a net profit of 150. Well, most people originally, they would say, I want the bigger clinic. I want the one collecting $1 million. But at the end of the day, it's exactly what you said. It doesn't matter about what you actually are collecting. It matters how much you're able to keep and what you're able to bring home to your family at the end of the day. And if you think about it, it just makes logic sense, doesn't it? That the clinic that collects $1 million is going to require way more staff, way more things to like oversee or supervise or manage, way more clients or customers to maybe have to attend to. Whereas the other one, it's on a smaller scale and it's less stress, less overhead, less hassle. And at the end of the day, you bring more home to your family. So a lot of people just say, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing this well in my business. Well, it doesn't matter how well you're doing in your business. It doesn't matter what you're collecting. It only matters what you're bringing home to your family.
I love that. I love that. And that is absolutely the truth. But the hard part about that is that in today's world, everything seems so good. Markets are in a hockey stick like I've never seen them. Everybody's making money in stocks. Hell, put your money in the 401k, shut your eyes, and you're going to be a millionaire. Put your money in crypto and anything else, and hell, you're going to be a millionaire until you're broke. And that's always what I have to say to people. It's great that you're making money. We get people on here that boast and say, oh my gosh, I made 40% on my money this year. I'm happy for you. But I always challenge you, keep it. Show me how you're going to keep it. Because it's not hard to make money when everything is going up, but it sure is hard to keep that money that you made when you don't follow rules and when you get greedy. Because, there's laws of wealth. I'm writing a book called The Laws of Wealth. There are 6 laws of wealth, and they're very simple. Number 1, pay yourself first. We've all heard that, but how many of you actually do that? Take the amount that you keep, which is take the money you make, okay, and then multiply that times 10%, the gross. Are you keeping 1/10 of the money that you make, or how much of that money is actually leaving your family forever? Well, the law says that you should keep 1/10 of the money that you earn. Okay. So if you can't keep 1/10 of the money you earn, and keep is the same as save. I just don't like the word save. If you can't keep 1/10 of the money you earn, I got bad news for you. This system that we're going to talk about today will not work for you. Okay. Number 2, once you have mastered the art of law number 1, keeping 1/10 of the money you earn, next law is you have to make that money go to work for you. You go to work for your money every single day. Some of you hate your job. Some of you go to work, you work overtime, you don't even get paid for it sometimes. You don't even like what you do, but you do it because you have to. But why doesn't your money go to work for you? If you're keeping 1/10, then that 1/10 should go to work every single day, and it should work harder than you. This is what the wealthy have figured out that you haven't. They have learned that trading hours for dollars is a great way to stay broke. Okay. But trading hours for dollars and then taking the money that you've kept and then putting that money to work, that's what they figured out. It's not about how much their hour is worth. It's about how much the money that they've earned goes out and makes for them. Their money works for them. Yes, they still work for money, but they choose, most of them choose how and what they're going to do to make money. And they put a value on their time that is unlimited. They do not have a set dollar amount that their time is worth. Their time is priceless. So their money has to work harder for them. But once you've mastered the art of making your money work for you, and making your money work can be through private lending, through real estate, through crypto, could be through investing in the stock market and trading the market, could be options. I mean, there's so many different ways to make your money work. You choose which one you have knowledge in, which one you have expertise in, or you find somebody that has knowledge based on the time that they've invested, the experience that they've gotten, the wisdom that they've collected through the failures that they've done. These are the rules. These are the things you have to follow. Number 3, this is my favorite one, man. You've all seen Talladega Nights. If you're not first, you're last. If you're not first, you're last. And what I mean by that is protect your wealth always. Your wealth and the money that you've made should be protected. Okay. Almost like Fort Knox protected gold. Your wealth should be protected. And to protect your wealth, the first thing you have to do is you have to always treat your money with respect. Treat your wealth with respect. If you're going to invest in something you have knowledge in. And if you don't have knowledge in it, find somebody that has extensive knowledge through those different things I mentioned and invest through them. But be very careful, because through greed, most people will give back the money that they've made. Most people will give back the wealth that they're making right now. And it's all because of greed and because there is no get rich quick schemes. Okay. There is no get rich quick solutions. If you get rich quick, chances are you'll lose it all. How many times have people won the lottery and then all of a sudden you read in the news, they're broke again? Professional athletes, football players, they get paid millions, tens of millions of dollars, and all of a sudden they're broke when their career ends. They have not learned how to keep the money and they haven't learned how to protect their wealth because of mostly greed. Law number 4, wealth will flee its owner if you seek unrealistic returns. How many of you are out there seeking big returns because you want to make the most amount of money to get rich quick? If you do that, you're going to find a whole bunch of gurus and fraudsters and scammers that are there to try to take your money. I openly tell people all the time, I do not manage people's money anymore. I spent 16 years doing that. I don't want to manage anyone's money. But a lot of people just want to give up control of their money to somebody else because that somebody else tells them they're going to make them a bunch of money. Go on TikTok, they're everywhere. Give your money to them. They'll buy NFTs, they'll buy crypto. I mean, listen, like I'm not saying they're all fraudsters or scammers, but you got to be really careful about that. Warren Buffett says, when others are greedy, be fearful. And when others are fearful, be greedy. That's law number 4. Law number 5 is the single most important one. If you listen to that Will Smith talk, it's all he talked about. Wealth shall find you if your heart and soul are focused on solving other people's problems. Spend your life solving other people's problems and do it unconditionally. Don't do it with, an hidden agenda to make, something for yourself. Do it unconditionally and give. Find joy in giving, and then you shall get. And the last one is create a legacy. Be willing to pass on your knowledge, be willing to pass on what you have, because that's what you're going to be remembered for. Nobody's going to remember you for the cars or the houses or anything you have. They're going to remember you for the knowledge and the gifts you passed on in this life that bettered other people's lives. So I had to get those laws out because, we get a lot of people saying, well, who does this work for? Well, it works for people that understand those laws. And if you don't understand those laws and you're not participating into those laws, this will not work for you. And then the other thing that we get all the time is we always hear people talking, and on TikTok more so than anywhere else, about IULs. And we have spent extensive time, Brent and Stephen, analyzing and dissecting IUL policies from a contractual level, because we have people on our team that own IULs, and we have dissected them. And I'm not saying that IULs are bad. None of us take a stance saying that they're bad. I personally don't like them and I very openly tell you that the IULs, the way that most of them are built, do not work for the infinite banking concept, but they would maybe in some cases be good for a long-term strategy like retirement or supplementing a retirement. I think IULs are a good fit for that because you got a longer-term time horizon. You can get through the surrender charges on the IULs, and you can do that. But people constantly want to say that that's the best vehicle there is. That's the silver bullet. All the brokerages, since I think, when did IULs come out, Brent? Was it the late 90s?
Yeah, I believe so.
Late 90s, early 2000s? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had a VUL that I started in 2003. I still own that sucker today. It's a piece of garbage, but I still own it just because I started it so long ago. And in 2008, when the Great Recession hit, I almost lost my VUL. I remember getting letters from New York Life saying that my VUL was going to lapse because my separate account of mutual funds, the one reason why I did a VUL, was for the basket of mutual funds that I had the ability to earn more money in than what a whole life would pay me. So I went all in. And then all of a sudden, when the market tanked, that separate account of mutual funds went down to under what my policy was actually worth, and the policy was going to lapse. New York Life, luckily, and many of the other big mutuals, said, hey, we're not going to let your policy lapse. We're going to protect it till we get through this time. But it was like rebuilding over and over again. If I look at the amount that I put into that and I look at the value that's in there, it's actually a disgrace. A terrible place to put money. But hey, listen, I learned the hard way, and IULs are great when the markets are good because you share in the returns of an index. So the reason IULs, this is my opinion. Now, this is open for argument. But my opinion why IULs are so bloody popular right now through the bank brokerages and through all the brokerage houses out there. And believe me, I spent 16 years on Wall Street. I know how things are done is mostly if you just follow the dollar, you find the truth. And IULs are one of the highest paying commissions. Okay. You can design them all different ways, but you can design an IUL that pays you 90 to 120% of premium. So if somebody gives you $10,000 as a broker selling an IUL, you potentially can make $9,000 to sometimes $12,000. And again, there's a wide range on how they can be built, just like a whole life. They can be designed and engineered different ways, but that's pretty average. So then you look at the products that we do. One of the designs that we do from a company called Mass Mutual, which we're going to talk about, pays us literally about $387, about 11%, okay, of the premium. Would you prefer, if you were the brokerage or the bank or anyone who's talking about, should we do these specially designed and engineered whole lives, or should we do IULs? Which one would you want? The one that pays you $387 per $10,000 in deposit, or the one that pays you $9,000 to $12,000 per $10,000 in deposit? Well, let me take you back in time when I was a broker and I was, working with the firms. Hell yeah, man. Sell the one with the commission. That's how I wanted to do it. And that's what they taught us to do. But we never, ever got taught how to construct a whole life the way that we do today, where we actually give up a lot of our commission to the client by the way it's constructed. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to get through the thick and the thin. And I'm not saying IULs are bad. I'm simply saying they're not the right fit for what we're teaching today. That's all there is to it.
Well, Chris, can I add about the IUL?
Please.
The one thing that I always tell people, about their IUL policy, and I have people that say all the time, well, I have an IUL. Can I use this for banking? And well, the problem is it doesn't have a guaranteed growth rate. It's not guaranteed to go up in value like a whole life. And because, as you know, a whole life policy, the cash value increases, the loan availability increases, and also the death benefit increases constantly. I mean, it's not me telling you that. It's in your policy contract, right? All you got to do is look in your policy contract. Today is better than yesterday. Tomorrow is better than today in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. So I have people that tell me, they say, well, I'm looking at an IUL, or I have an IUL. And I say, okay, well, let's look at the IUL that you're looking at. Let's get the illustration and let's take a look at it. And I always want to make sure that the agent is providing every page of the illustration of an IUL. That's one thing that a lot of agents that I have seen, okay, on these policies, they will not show you every page of the IUL. They only want you to see the pages that the agent wants you to see, right? So you got to make sure that they give you every single page so you can dissect and analyze exactly what's going on those pages. And then I say, let's take a look at this. Let's go look at the guaranteed column on an IUL product. What is the guaranteed values, right? I'm not saying it's going to perform at the guaranteed, but that is how it could perform. So we got to always look at whatever policy it is, whether it's a whole life or an index universal variable, or any cash value policy. We got to look and see what is the guaranteed, because when the shit hits the fan, what is the worst that could possibly happen? And every single IUL policy that I have ever reviewed, every single one without exception, when you look at the guaranteed column on that policy, you will see when that person gets to a certain age, generally in their late 50s, early 60s, the cash value goes down. Increases. It goes down in value. And also the death benefit goes down. So at a certain point in time, you could have zero cash value and zero death benefit in an IUL policy because the cost of insurance cannot keep up with the policy. So in order to keep that thing going, you have to dump more and more and more money, way more money than you started with in that policy. And it's just not realistic. So it's just a lie. They're not telling you what is actually going on. And yes, it could perform better. And a lot of times they do. But Chris, I think over the last several years, you and I have spent lots of time. We've done lots of calls with people that are taking a bloodbath in their IUL, that have just got hammered.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay. So like if the stock market is going up a little bit, you're like, IUL's looking really good. But what happens when it goes down? And it is going to go down, right? Whatever's going to go up is going to go down. We just don't know when that's going to happen. But again, if you're talking to an IUL person, what do they always talk about? The IUL says, well, yeah, but over X amount of years in the past, we have got an average rate of return of X. Well, average doesn't mean crap. It only matters, okay, the only rate of return that matters is the actual rate of return. Average is just an average. Go to our book that we wrote, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. I don't know what page it's on, I think it's 20 or 25, where we talk about average rate of return versus actual rate of return. Average does not mean anything. The only thing that means anything is how much did you start with when you got in and how much are you exiting with when you get out. Average means nothing at all. You've got to look at the actual rate of return. And the thing Nelson Nash even says, he says, I would never, ever buy an IUL policy. So I would never, ever sell an IUL policy. And that is my mindset exactly. Now, every now and then we'll run across somebody that has to have an IUL. They just have to have an IUL. Okay. Well, if you're going to have an IUL, remember that's an investment. And what's the definition of an investment? Something that can go up and can go down. See, a whole life policy is not an investment. A lot of people think it is because it goes up in value, but no. A definition of an investment is something that can go up and can go down. You see, in the whole life, it can never go down. So if a person really wants an IUL policy, here's what I recommend. Go buy a whole life policy. Go and go ahead and buy the policy, pay the premium into the whole life policy, take a loan, and now go buy an index universal policy. Because what you've essentially done is just taken your money out of your guaranteed cash value growth vehicle, and you're going to invest it into the IUL because it could go up and it could go down.
Yeah, I mean, the IULs, and I have one right here in front of me. This is a Mutual of Omaha one that was brought to us from a client. Not only that, we have somebody on our team, Devin, who prior to doing the stuff with us, because he didn't believe that what we did was real, and he had been told by the person that sold him the IUL that what we did was a scam and it never works that way. He bought an IUL, and we did a video, and I don't think it's out yet because we've been really spending a lot of time on the editing of it, but it's a video that doesn't disassemble IULs or talk about them bad. It just basically shows factually from a contract standpoint, straight up to the illustration standpoint, and then mathematically doing the math and breaking them down with our mapping team, which one works best for what. The only assumption we could get is, listen, we teach the infinite banking concept. It's no secret. Like, we teach you how to use banking systems. That's it. We teach you how to become the bank. And in an IUL, I'll just give you an example. Here's what I'm holding, and this is from one of our clients. This was literally designed by somebody who said this was for the infinite banking concept. No kidding about it. The person puts $12,000 in, and folks, listen, I'm looking at it right here. I can't give the name. I got to cover the name up. But a 40-year-old preferred plus non-tobacco putting $12,000 in at 41 years old. I mean, for the infinite banking concept to work from 90% of what we teach, it requires putting money in and then immediately taking that money out, whether it's in the first 30 days or the first year, doesn't matter. I mean, it takes immediately taking that money out and making that money go to work for you. So if that's what we teach, then the IUL, putting 12,000 into this, and I'm not even going to use the guaranteed columns because we don't use the guaranteed columns in whole life. So let's keep things level, because you're not going to talk about the guarantees when, we don't even talk about guarantees in a whole life because the insurance companies have always paid a dividend. But the non-guaranteed illustrated interest rate on this one is 6.17. So I will give, the advisor on this credit, like, they didn't go crazy with showing an assumed rate. They used 6.17, which probably was an average of the S&P 500 over a specified period of time. The first year they put in 12,000. Now, this is important. They have an accumulation value of 10,692. That would be the amount that's accumulating on and the amount that basically is in there. But the surrender value, and the surrender value is the amount you can actually take and use, is $1,332. So for what we teach, let's just say you've got debts and you want to pay debts off, or you want to buy a car. If you put 12 in and you can only take out 1,332, does that work for what the infinite banking concept teaches? It does not. Now, is that the end of the world? No, because if you're doing this for retirement, this person puts 12,000 in. Now, let's just say they do that for 20 years till the age of 60. They have put in 180,000 and they have 406,000 that they can use tax-free. They're past their surrender fee. So that's not a bad proposition. I don't know what the return is. We did the math on the video and it wasn't terrible 20 years out. But what you have to understand is, I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm simply saying what we teach, this does not work. This is not a vehicle that can work because in the early years of an IUL, there are surrender fees. There's a surrender period that you have to get through. And in this one, let's see where it breaks even. It is, let's see, wow. Okay, it's right here. This one's 15 years. Now, I'm going to give some credit to IULs. Not all of them are this long, but this one, in the 15th year, the amount that the person has in the accumulation value, 256, is the amount of surrender. Every other year, it's less. So year one, it's 10 for 1,300, then 22,000 for 13,000, and 34,000 for 26. Now, if you're okay giving up control and liquidity of that much money in the early years, then by all means, like, roll the dice and go into an IUL, because one thing an IUL does provide that a whole life does not is it does provide you the ability to capture the upside of the market. So if the index, if the S&P or whatever index you're mirroring with the insurance company, if the index makes 12%, you might share in 10 or 11 or 12, whatever that ceiling is. But the cool part about an IUL is you have a floor. And that floor might be 0 or 0.75%, so 75 bips. So you can't go negative in your investment returns. So you got a ceiling and you got a floor, which is pretty cool. Your mutual fund portfolio does not have that. But here's the problem. It doesn't mean you can't lose money, because outside of the floor, there's still a cost of insurance. Same with a whole life, but the cost of insurance in an IUL every year, like 1-year term insurance, gets more expensive. So every year, the older you get, the more expensive the product gets. That's a fact, contractual fact. We have gone to the insurance companies, the people that construct these, and done this. We got this guy, Sammy, who sells IULs. We love Sammy. He comes on our TikToks all the time to verify this. And he says all this stuff is verified, is exactly true. So again, you just have to decide what your goal is and what your goal is to, what money problem you're trying to solve, and then pick the vehicle that works best. Again, the banks aren't using IUL for their tier 1 capital because it doesn't have the guarantees that they want. But the real thing that comes into it, and Brent, we can go anywhere you want from here, is I've got something where I'm going to mathematically show you why and how a whole life, okay, for an actual client that we had. We have 2 examples, a big one and a small one, for an exact client, how a whole life works. And I want to show you why this works for what we teach and how you can put money in and take money out. I'm just going to get to the pure mathematics, like net of cost of insurance, net of all expenses. We're not going to hide anything. I'm going to show you, some people would call it arbitrage. I call it a spread. If you make this and it costs you this to borrow the money from the insurance company, where does it make sense? And that's where people get hung up. Well, yeah, but why am I going to put it in and then pay interest on the money I take out? Dave Ramsey says it. Susie Orman says it. Other people. We have a gentleman on here today who challenged us earlier in the wealth webinar. Oh, he just commented in, said not true again. Insurance costs are net amount at risk, which can decrease every single year. Okay, getting in the weeds here, but the insurance cost inside of an IUL, as you get older, this is a fact. The costs go up. Bob, tell me something or show me in the contract where the cost of insurance does not go up every single year that you get older. In a whole life, it is fact, your cost of insurance remains level each and every single year. It does not increase. That's one of the guarantees that they give you in the contract. A whole life contract is a lot simpler than an IUL contract when you actually look at them. It's actually a lot less pages. But I just want to so he said the cost per thousand goes up, total out of pocket is less. I'm just going to show you the math, okay? Because we could get into a round and round here about the cost, but nobody gives 2 shits about all of that because they don't even understand that. Bob obviously does IULs. We do whole life. Listen, let's just solve this with mathematics, because the one thing, people fucking lie. I hate to say it. They do. Some people might say, in some certain things I'm saying, oh, he lied. Okay. Some people might say Bob lied. It doesn't matter. Math does not lie. So that's what I wanted to do today, is I just wanted to once and for all just show you the math, because we have the capability to show that with our mapping team, and all of our clients have access to our mapping team for free. As long as they're a client of the Money Multiplier, they get to get these awesome projections put together. Brent, do you want to go into this and kind of do it?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think if you want to go into that, I had a topic that I wanted to just to go in today called the ideal investment. What would the perfect investment vehicle? What would what are the characteristics of an ideal or perfect investment? I can either do that first, or I can let you continue to roll with what you're doing, and then I can come back to that at the end. And if we run out of time, I can do it on our next call on next Wednesday. So
let's go into that because that's important. What is the perfect investment? Let's dissect
all right.
that
Well,
first. And
all
then
right.
we'll
Anyway, so can you write some of this stuff down as I go over it?
Yeah, because we'll write it down, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll say, hey, if these are the components of a perfect investment, which does this fit? So,
right. Well, and so as we do this, I think it's a good idea that if people are wanting to chime in the chat box of what they think the qualities are of an ideal or a perfect investment. I mean, I think I'm going to cover most of them, but if I miss any, I would be interested in hearing what people think are the characteristics or the attributes of the perfect investment. So again, okay, so the thing is hypothetically speaking, what are the characteristics you'd want in an ideal investment? All right. We know in the real world, every possible investment has one or more drawbacks. But if you could invent a type of asset from scratch that had no drawbacks, what would it look like? Okay. Well, the attributes of a perfect investment. Okay. Here it goes. If you were designing the perfect investment, what would it look like? Well, the number one thing most people would say is I want a high rate of return. So write that up there, Chris, high rate of return, right? That's the first thing most people say is that they want the market value of their investment to increase significantly over time. So that's the first one, is high rate of return. What would number two maybe be? It would be a consistent rate of return. Consistent rate of return. Okay, so the majority of people would explain that not only it is desirable to have a high rate of return, okay, on average, but that if we're talking about the perfect investment, we want the high rate of return to be consistent. In other words, if investment A and investment B both yielded, say, 20% return per year over the course of 10 years, people would prefer to hold the investment that was more predictable year to year. All right. So number one, high rate of return. Number two, consistent rate of return. Number three, we might want it to be conservative, which in other words is safe. Okay. This is a logical extension of the desire for consistency. People want an investment that only goes up. Once it reaches a particular market value, it cannot go down from there. Right. Very important. People want it to go up consistently. And once it gets to a certain point, it can never, ever, ever decrease. All right. Number four would be we want it to be liquid. We want it liquid. So basically, it's one thing to know that your investment is worth a certain amount of money, but it's another to be able to convert it into liquid dollars, okay, should the needs arise. A liquid asset can be sold for its market value to raise cash very quickly. All right, so we've talked about four. Number five, and again, these are in no particular order. You can put them in whatever order you want. You may agree with some, you may disagree with some, you may have extras. The next one I would say is we want it to be guaranteed. Guaranteed. There's some assets come with actual guarantees, okay? So naturally, the perfect investment would be two. We want it to be guaranteed. The next one would be tax benefits or maybe tax-free. Ideally, the investment would not significantly increase our tax liability. In a perfect world, we would enjoy all of its other benefits without suffering any tax consequences. The investment gains would be tax-free. All right, how are we doing so far? We doing all right?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. It still goes on. No market volatility. Okay. Now that we've talked about the major items, a lot of people often will come back to the rate of return considerations. It's not just that they want this hypothetical investment to be dependable, but ideally it would not be tied to the performance of the stock market. Oh, is an IUL tied to the performance of the stock market? I don't know. I'm just saying. Sorry, I threw that in there. This way, if and when the individual's other assets have a bad year, the perfect ideal investment still has a predictable increase, which is all the more valuable in such a scenario. All right. The next one, Chris, is yields income. Okay, it yields income besides capital gain. The perfect investment would provide a cash flow over time beyond its simple market appreciation value. So number 8 is the yields. It yields income besides just the capital gain. Next one, number 9. Number 9 is it's creditor protected. It's one thing to focus on the safety and guarantees propping up the market value of the asset we're studying, but to make it even more desirable, the owner would enjoy creditor protection. In other words, if the owner of our hypothetical investment got into trouble elsewhere and they owed outsiders more than they could pay, those creditors would not be able to seize his perfect ideal investment, right? That's what makes, okay? That's the part of what makes it perfect. So it's creditor protected. All right, a few more I have written down here. The next one is inflation protected, Chris. Number 10 is inflation protected. This is similar to no market volatility. Just as the investor wouldn't want this hypothetical asset to drop when the stock market crashes. On the other hand, we want our perfect investment to increase in value to keep pace with price inflation. What are we going through right now, guys? In the country? Inflation. I don't know of another vehicle on this planet that's better than a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends to hedge against inflation. And if you know of one, let me know what it is, because I've been asking the question for 15 years and nobody has been able to tell me. But if you know, let me know what it is. And so inflation protected is number 10. The next one is control. Now, control is kind of related to liquid, is it not? People are very familiar with investments that they have no control over. Their money is being held by others, and it is effectively in prison, perhaps for decades. The ideal investment would not be locked up behind these penalties for early withdrawal. So control. I have been taught by my financial mentors, own nothing but control everything. Own nothing but control everything. All right. Number 12, what about this perfect investment? We want it to be transferable. If desired, the owner should be able to easily transfer ownership of the perfect investment to someone else. So you could sell it, right? Because a whole life policy is an appreciating asset. It goes up in value. It can be transferred. It can be sold. It can be given to someone else. All right. The next one would be it's easy to manage. All right. This perfect investment is easy to manage, Chris. So number 13 is easy to manage. There shouldn't be a big learning curve to figure out how to make decisions with this perfect investment. Not only does the owner want to be in control, but that control should not come with a bunch of headaches or heartaches. All right. And you know me, Chris, I'm all about simple. I'm not a complicated person. It took me 13 trimesters to pass 10 trimesters of chiropractic school because I couldn't pass classes the first time. When I finally did graduate chiropractic school, it took me 2 extra years to actually become a chiropractor because I couldn't pass national board exams. I could not pass part 3 of the 4-part national board exams. I kept failing the damn test, and they only give you the test every 6 months. So every time I failed it, I had to wait another 6 months. So I am not the brightest candle on the cake. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. And some people say I'm a couple donuts short of a dozen. So I like it to be simple. I don't like things complicated. And this is why my favorite quote in the entire world, okay, I guess I shouldn't really say that because maybe there's another quote I like better, but the one that I think about every day is the quote that I heard Warren Buffett say in October of 2008. And Warren Buffett said this. He says, if poor people would just start doing what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. How much sense does that make, guys? That's all we're going to do is we're going to mimic and imitate what the rich and the wealthy are doing. We're not reinventing the wheel here. No, we're only going to use the tools that the wealthy have been using for about a couple hundred years. All right, I just got 3 more, I think. 3 more, Chris. Okay. The next one is no hidden fees or penalties. No hidden fees or penalties. All right. So a lot of people have been burned enough times by institutional money management firms that promote impressive rates of return in their brochures without making it clear how much of those returns are absorbed by the management fees. The perfect investment would be very transparent so that the owner would never be surprised by money taken off of the top, right? No hidden fees, no management fees. Chris, didn't you say earlier about like people that are trying to chase the super high returns? They're okay. You said wealth will flee its owner if you seek unrealistic returns. That's what you said earlier.
Bingo.
And again, right, I didn't talk to you about this before this call. That's what you said.
Yeah,
you said wealth. Yeah. All right. So again, no hidden fees or penalties. The next one is reputable, right? Reputable, Chris, number 15. At this stage in our conversation, many people begin thinking, we want this thing to be legal, right? So in addition to all the attributes we've described so far, it would also be ideal if our investment was reputable. Well, yeah, you want it to be trustworthy and legal, and you want it to be reputable, right? And the last one is, or at least the ones I have written down, is private. We want it to be private. The perfect investment, though it's reputable, would also be private. So in other words, just your tax person would not be getting 1099s every year, explaining the performance of your investment and otherwise telling people about your business. So all right, so how many things did we mention? We mentioned 16. Now, I wasn't looking in the chat box, so I don't know. There might be some others in the chat box. But all of these things describe, okay, or at least in my mind, a perfect or an ideal investment. Well, every one of these characteristics I just described. So in our whole life policy in our mutual company that pays dividends, does it check off every single box that I just mentioned? And if it doesn't, challenge me of which one it doesn't. But to me, this is the perfect ideal investment that you would want. Now,
the only one I don't think it checks off that most people are probably thinking is number 1, a high rate of return. A whole life does not have a high rate of return, but that's looking at it from just the machine standpoint, is they put the money in the whole life and they do nothing with it, which again is not what we teach, because we teach put the money in, take the money out, and put it in whatever investment you're going to put it in, which is where the high return could be. But everything else, I think, we check the boxes on most of these.
Okay. But Chris, so now Chris, I'm going to ask you something because I'm going to challenge you on that statement.
I'm listening.
So a high rate of return. When people think high rate of return, what's the really definition of a high rate of return? Most people put it together with a number. Some people might say 10, 20, 50%. Well, okay, so a whole life policy. I just met before our webinar with the home office guy that came down here to Florida with Lafayette Life. He just left my house, and we're talking about, hey, our rate of return with the dividends, it's 5.2%, So a lot of people would say, well, 5.2% is not a lot, but it's a steady 5.2. It's a tax-free 5.2, right? So remember, guys, the policy is not the investment. The policy is the process to make the investment. Now, Chris, I'm going to challenge you on this about high rate of return, because you and I get these calls all the time and they say, well, I can get a higher rate of return in XYZ. Well, again, it's not really about the rate. It's about the volume of money that you're recapturing and keeping in your family. And I'm going to send you back to the presentation that we do, the 90-minute. I'm going to send you to the car example. And if all of you guys have watched my car example in that presentation, do I not absolutely 100% prove to you that that not only do you buy the car, so in other words, what you do is the thing you have to do is, you have to take your money and you have to give it to the car dealer. You got to take your money and you have to give it to the car dealer. And in exchange, the car dealer gives you the car. So they got the money, you get the car. They got the money, you get the car, right? Well, do I not prove in that presentation that not only do you get the car, but you get all of the money back as well? So you get the car and you have the money. Now, does it happen in the first year, the second year? No, but at the end of the day, do you not only get the car and the money and more money than you've actually got into the deal? So my argument to that, Chris, would be on the high rate of return. Well, tell me what percentage rate of return are we getting with the policy if you get all your damn money back? If you get the product that you just bought and you get all the money back, what rate of return is that? But no, if all you're doing is looking at it in the first year or the second year, if you have short-term thinking, if you think this is a sprint and not a marathon, then you should not even be doing this. You should go have lunch or go walk the dog or burp the baby. You shouldn't even be on the call. This is not about doing this for a short period of time. This is something that you want to add to your financial life. Don't change. I don't want you to change what you're doing. We're just going to add this one step to your financial life. And when you do this, your financial life is drastically going to change. It's drastically going to improve, because now what you're doing is you're recycling and recapturing all of the dollars that have been leaving your family forever. And the vehicle that we're doing it with is a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. That's what we're doing it with. Why are we doing it with that vehicle? Because there's no vehicle on the planet that works any better. And if there is, show me what it is. And if there is, why aren't the rich and the wealthy doing it? Why are banks the number one purchasers of whole life insurance? Why aren't banks buying term, index, universal life, variable insurance? Why do they buy whole life? Why does Robert Kiyosaki talk about it in his book called Second Chance? Why does Tony Robbins talk about it in the book Money Master the Game? Why does Ted Bennett, the inventor of the 401k, tell you, hey, the 401k is not all that. I store 75% of my net worth in my whole life policies in my mutual company that pays dividends. So it's not on trial. It's not being tested. All of this stuff I just went over with you, I did not invent or create any of this. All those things I just told you about, those 15 things, guys, I am not smart enough to come up with all of the perfect investment things. Where did I steal it from? I stole it from my mentor, R. Nelson Nash, in his book, The Case for IBC. Everything I just told you, you probably think, wow, Brent, you're a pretty smart guy. You came up with all of that. No, man, I didn't come up with any of that. I just read and I learn from people that are better than me and that know how to build, keep, and create wealth. So everything I just shared with you about the perfect investment is in the book called The Case for IBC. Here it is. See it on the screen? The Case for IBC. But it makes sense. And that's exactly what's going on. And the reason I wanted to bring that up, Chris, is because of the question that we get most often is, well, if I don't do this whole life policy and I go put it in something else, I can get a higher rate of return. No. This is not an either or. This is not an instead of, right? This is not an either do this or do that. The policy is the process. Now take the policy and go get your damn high rate of return wherever you want to put it in. Whatever investment vehicle that you want to get it in, then put it into that. The policy is the process. But even if you do nothing with the policy, you buy the damn policy, put it on the shelf and never use it, it's still going to increase significantly. And there's no product no product on this planet that anybody has ever shown me that works better than this with these features and benefits.
Love it.
All right, I'm done.
All right, I'm done. All right. So, one of the things, I saw a couple comments, and we're going to get into the numbers now, and we're going to spend the rest of today's training solely on mathematics, numbers, and then we're going to basically kind of talk of not just about the policies numbers, which I'm going to start with, but the most important thing is not what you do with, the money you put in the policy. The policy is, to me, boring, whether or not 5.2 to 6% is a good return or not a good return. One of the comments that came in was, this doesn't beat inflation, because they're looking at inflation at 6.8 and they're looking at this as 5.2 to 6%. They're like, you're not beating inflation. And that is a true statement, but that is short-sighted, because what you're not understanding is what we actually do with the money, because this is not an and or asset. This is not put money in this whole life or put money in the stock market, put money in this asset or put money in crypto, put money in this asset or put money in real estate. This is put money in this vehicle, this whole life, and then immediately take the money out and then go invest in real estate, in crypto, in stocks, in whatever you want to invest in. This is, as Caleb, our friend, talks about in his book, the and asset. That's what this is, the and asset. Put it in here and do that and make money twice instead of once. But obviously there's some people out there that just want to make money one time, and that's fine. They should leave right now. I mean, we got plenty of viewers on here that do want to see this. So I'm going to get into the numbers. And Stephen, I'd like your help on this, because we deal with this a lot. This is the very first time we've ever put this analysis together where we've actually shown it in the way that I'm about to show it. And then I'm going to grab this. And then what we're going to do is, first, we're going to just do math. Okay. And then after we're done with doing the math on this screen, what we're then going to do is we're then going to show the product, this whole life, being redeployed out there and how that process works. Some of you have seen it, but some of you obviously have not, because you wouldn't have said this doesn't beat inflation. We just did it 2 weeks ago where we showed you exactly how to beat inflation with this. Not just once, twice. We showed you a whole bunch of ways to use this to beat inflation. So here we go. Sorry, Mark, he was being a devil's advocate. Yeah, but, I wasn't going to call Mark out. I was just kind of, he was right, though. 5.2% doesn't beat inflation. So here we go. This is a real client. And just so everybody knows, you can't see it, but I'm holding the illustration. I've just crossed off the company and the client's name. This client is 38 years old, insurance age. And the first year he dumps in $50,000 and his annual premium is $58,000. Stephen, can you see the screen that I'm looking at?
Yes.
All right. So his first year, with a $50,000 dump in and $5,895 being put in premium deposits, this client in this designed product will have access to $51,554. Now, you can see there's guaranteed and then there's non-guaranteed, which this side is non-guaranteed. What is the difference? Right here, folks, the dividend. Now, the dividend is the only difference between the green column and the blue column. And the reason we don't ever use the guaranteed column is because this company in over 160 years has never once, not one time in all of those years, not paid a dividend. So if we were to use the guaranteed column, that would assume that this company after 160 years will never pay another dividend for the rest of your life. That just is not an accurate statement. So what we're going to use is the current dividend, which is the lowest dividend this company has ever paid in the last, I have the numbers, in the last 32 years. It's the lowest they've ever paid at 2%. So this product right here pays a gross 6%. Okay. It pays interest plus dividends. And once you add the two together, it is 6%. You guys can Google it and you will see they just announced 2022 dividends. There it is. So 6% is what we're making. But now it comes down to all these different things that play into a perfect investment. Well, perfect investment, number one, needed liquidity. If we put $55,895 in, how much do we have access to immediately? Okay. Now this is going to kind of be a range, but between $50,000 and $51,000 immediately. This column, projected cash value per year, is at the end of the first year when the dividend pays. So technically to get $51,000, okay, which would be about if we're doing the math, I think 92 and change % access to your money. In other words, I put $55,895 in. I have access to 51, which is about 92, a little more than 92% of the amount I put in. Not bad. Now, some people, if you can't accept that, then this isn't for you. And this is where, you move on and you do something different. If you're one of those rare people that puts money in your bank account and before the end of the year, you immediately drain your bank account to zero just to say you could do it, well, then this vehicle won't work for you, clearly, because you don't have access to 100% of your money immediately. Dividends are not a return, right? Dividends are a return of unused premiums. This guy's been watching Dave Ramsey's video. They're a return of unused premiums. Let me ask you, what is a dividend from a stock company? It's a return of the profits. It's a sharing of the profits of the company. So what makes up the profits of a mutually owned insurance companies, like end of the year? What makes up their gain, their profit? Unused premiums, right? The amount of premiums they didn't have to pay out, the amount of premiums they didn't have to use for staff, for buildings, for rent. Kind of the same thing, but yes, the premium or the dividends are a return of unused premiums. They are not, as smart guy just said, a return. Okay, whatever they are, return or not return, return with premium or whatever they are, it's money in your bank, as shown in this column. So let's get to the stuff that actually matters here, okay? Instead of talking
Chris,
about...
Chris,
Yep.
The screen is a bit fuzzy. Can you clear it up at all?
It's not your end.
I'm not sure what you can do. Right now, I can't see anything on mine. It's just all...
Stephen,
it just went fuzzy. It was clear a minute ago, but...
That's bizarre. All right, hang on one sec. Let's do this. Let's stop share and let's reshare. No idea why that would happen, but that's all right. Is that any better?
Yeah, that is better.
All right. I think my computer probably just ran out of memory or something, but anyway. All right, so now let's go to year two. So now here's the part we have to understand. The first year you lost access, or you could just say you lost 7.77% of your money. Right, you did, because there was a cost for this death benefit. So your death benefit is $1.2 million. That does have a cost. The insurance companies, last time I checked, don't work for free. So that is a return of premium. Is it still blurry? All right.
Okay.
Good. All right. So that's the worst year. First year is the worst year. But what we're going to assume, and this is very important, so everybody listen up. Okay, what we're going to assume in all assumptions is that in this scenario, in the infinite banking concept, whatever money we have in here, we are basically going to redeploy that money into some other investment, or we're going to pay off debts and recapture money. We're going to use all of this money for something else to go out there and make another return. Okay. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you invest in crypto. I don't care if you buy real estate like Devin does. I don't care if you're a private lender like me and Brent do. Whatever you do, you have 51,000 of your 55 that you can take out. And when you take that money out, that money can go out there and be used to make an additional return. Now, taking this money out, how do you take the money out? Well, you can take withdrawals, but we don't suggest that. Or you can take loans, which we do recommend, because when you put money in and you take a loan out, your money never leaves your account. So you got 55,895 in there, earning a gross 6%, which we're going to get to the net return. That's your gross. And then you take out 51,000, meaning you have roughly, let's just round it, we'll just use a number, $4,000 left in the account. Are you earning 6% on the remaining $4,000, or are you earning 6% on the 55,895? Well, you're earning the 6% on the full amount of your premium deposits because your money never left your account. The insurance company made you a loan from your death benefit or from their general account. They used your money as collateral. So it's kind of a risk-free thing from the insurance company because they have your cash that you put in and they use it as collateral and they just pay you interest. So what you have is a vehicle that allows you to tap into uninterrupted compound interest. But in the first year, again, it was a loss. Now, the second year, if we took all the money out in the first year, what is the return we would be looking at in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh year? Well, I will tell you the name of that kind of a return is a cash on cash return. It is the return you earn only on the new money going into the plan, okay, going into the whole life in the second year, the new money going in the third year, because if every year we take the money out and make it go to work, well, then the only return we should focus on is that next deposit. This is how real estate works in most occasions. This is how a lot of investments are calculated, except for your 401k, where you put money in, you never take it out. So you look at a cumulative return. But I bet you most of you, when you look at your statement for your investments, you look at the return you made that year. Okay. And some of you would even get down and look at the return you made on the money deposited that year. Well, that's what we're looking at because you have access to use that money. And we are going to suggest taking it out and using it to make more. So second year, we put $58.95 in the plan for the second year as a premium deposit. Now, if we come over here, now I'm going to clear the screen because I want to keep this nice and clear. We put $58.95 in the second year, even on the guaranteed side, $6,000. We put 58 in, we took 6,000 out. Is that more or less than what you put in the second year? It's more. And then over here on the projected side, we put $58.95 in. How much did we take out? $7,141. Okay. So if you figured the math out, you would take the amount and you would basically take the cash value, which is 58 minus, or I'm sorry, you'd subtract it. I didn't do the math on here, but it's a $7,000 net gain. That's net after cost of insurance. That's net after policy service fee. The only thing not factored into this is the cost of the loan interest, which is $5. Well, actually it's less now. This one, hold on, this is on the new vehicle. This is the new vehicle. So the new loan interest used to be 5. Now it is 4. Okay. So the 4% is what you are going to pay to use the money. But if we're doing the return simply by the math, projected cash on cash return is 21.14%. How do you figure that out? You take the true net gain, okay, which is the 7,141, and you divide it into that year's premium deposit, because the first year, the money you put in, you already took out. That money's already out working for you. So now we just want the return on our newly deposited money, and there it is, by the math, 21. So if we did 21% minus 4, the cost of capital, what do we get? Well, you guys can do the math. It's a pretty good net return. And every year that we go about doing this, okay, every year we put money in. So that year we take the 7,000 out. Okay, the next year, what do we put in? 58. And how much can we take out? 69. Now, why is it less than it was the year before? Because this product from this company is kind of bizarre. They peel back a little bit on the dividends, but that's okay because it's a lot better than it was in the prior version anyway. But still, 69 is still more than 58. Fourth year, 58 goes in, 74 comes out, 26 cash on cash. But you can see, here's the numbers, right? We keep going up. So Brent said a consistent return. How consistent does that look, folks? Does that look pretty good to you? Keeps going up. Now, I want to hit this real quick. So Dave Ramsey loves term insurance, and I like term. I own term myself, but I own term to protect things for a term of time. So we use term insurance as well. In the first 7 or sometimes 10 years in this example, we will layer term insurance to give a higher death benefit to support the IRS rules. This negative number here is us getting rid of the term insurance. We drop the term from the policy. Why? Because term insurance has a cost. And every year, term insurance gets more expensive the way it's put on here as a rider. So we want to get rid of the cost. So we get rid of $696,328 in death benefit. So if you're doing this for a death benefit, that's not a good thing. But if you're doing this for cash value, we just got rid of excessive drag. So now when you're looking at this and you're looking at the math, we now have a vehicle where we can earn interest on the money we put in. We can access and use that money and take it out, and we can make a spread on that money. But the one thing that we always teach is not just to put money in and take money out and be a dishonest banker or steal money from your bank. We always talk about take the money out, put it into something that gives you a return, or pay off debts, and then recapture the money that your money makes. Your money that you took out of the plan went somewhere to work for you. And then when that money's working for you, it's going to either make interest, it's going to make dividends, or it's going to make gains. Where's that interest, dividends, and gains going to go in your current banking system? It's going to go in somebody else's bank. You're going to take the money you made and you're going to go deposit it in whatever bank that you bank with today. All we're doing, folks, is changing where your money goes first. We're then going to take the money that your money makes and we're going to put it back into your bank, the one with your name on it, instead of the one with the Bank of America name or whatever bank you bank with. So that's it. So we're not telling you to take money out and be a dishonest banker. But you know what? I got a unique thing that I want to show you, because I had a CFP, okay, come to us with a large client, and they wanted me to show them how to be a dishonest banker. They wanted me to show them how to do this, but let's take the money out and let's never, ever, ever treat this money the same as you treat the bank's money. Let's just take it out and let's just steal from our bank. And let's do that. All right. So what I'm going to show you, and I got to pull it up here, folks. Just hang on one quick second. I got to show you how we did this. We literally showed somebody putting money in and taking money out and never, ever, ever being an honest banker and putting that money back into their policy. So I just want to show you this because this is the first time we'd ever done this. Now, this is a larger policy. All right, so let's see. Let me share my screen. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get into showing application of this money the way that we would teach with the infinite banking concept. So here we go. So this is a policy. And you can see we got lots of tabs down here. Summary, cash flow 1, 2, 3. We got all sorts of analysis. So if you're a numbers person, this is where you start salivating. Most of you are looking at this going, holy crap, what the hell are all these numbers? Simple. Money in, okay, we changed where the money went first, put $1 million in year 1, 200,000 each year for the next couple of years till year 7. Then we drop the term and then 91,000. And then we RPU the contract, which we would never suggest doing. But in this example, this is what they wanted to see. RPU the contract, which means make it so you can never put money in again, which is why you see a bunch of zeros. So in other words, this is us saying, let's make it so that we can never deposit any more money in our bank after year 10. Great. All right. We'll show you how to do exactly what we don't suggest people do, but just for example. So we put $1 million in. And in the first year, this person, let me get to it here, has cash value of 918. And then we're going to take out loans every single year. So I want you to look here. These are the loan balance. We're going to put money in and we're going to take money out and we're never going to pay the money back. And we're going to even do something that we tell you never, ever, ever, ever do this. We're never going to pay the interest back to the insurance company. We're going to let the insurance company just add the interest that they charge on the loans back to the loan balance and take it directly from the cash value. Because let's just see if this thing dies. Let's see if we can lapse this policy by doing exactly what we don't teach you to do. Now we'll get over here to the cash value line of credit. We have 2 policies, so just ignore this. There's just we did this for 2 different guys. So now I want you to look at this. Here's your insurance company loan balance, which includes the cumulative loan balance. And it also includes the cumulative interest that you never paid to the insurance company that they just kept adding to your loan balance. And here is your cumulative cash value. Now, again, I want to be clear. We absolutely teach against this. We tell you never, ever do what I'm telling you we're showing here. But we did this as a stress test. Put money in, take money out, never pay the loan back, which you don't have to pay the loans back. You're just taking your death benefit while you're living. But we always tell you pay the loan interest at least. Matter of fact, we always tell you recapture as much of the money back into the policy. But here we're not doing that. So just look at the 2 numbers. Here's your cash value and here's your balance of the loan. Okay, is your cash value more than your loan? Yes, by 66,000 by the 6th year. Get down to the 10th year. Okay, we put this money in. Here's your cash value, 2.8. What's your loan balance? 2.7. You made $93,000 by being a completely dishonest banker and doing exactly what we would never teach you to do. Matter of fact, if you did this, we would fire you as one of our clients. I promise you. We would tell you, please have somebody else do this for you because you're doing exactly the opposite of what we tell you to do. And then you never put money in, but all you do is every year you take the gains and you just keep taking it out and you just keep rolling it. 96. So if we just keep looking at these numbers, I want to be clear that everybody understands. There's never a point in time in all these years where the loan balance or the cash value is less than the loan balance with interest. Okay, I think it gets close, but it never, ever exceeds. Matter of fact, you make a couple $100,000. Listen, folks, this is just math. This is math doing it the exact way we would teach you never to do it, but it purely shows you that, and there's some risks here, okay? Because if you ever did this and the dividends were to drop below the 2% shown here, then, or, the 6% with interest, then will these numbers be different? Yes. But see, here's the other thing in this scenario, and I want to go 1 round deeper that we would always show people to do. At this level, anything over like 100,000, we would have you leverage your cash value and we'd have you work with a bank to give you a line of credit because now your loan borrow rate is only 3 or 3.25%. We showed it at 3 in this example. So now if we were to do it, you can see your gains even more than it was before. All we're talking about here is a spread, folks. Here's how much you make net after cost of insurance, after policy service fees, and even after loan interest. And then here's how much you have left. And then there's the difference. So I don't know how else to put it. This is your net gain. Okay. This is your pure spread, your arbitrage, whatever the hell you want to call it. That's how much money you made by taking money and abusing your policy, and each year putting money in, taking it out, putting money in and taking it out, plus taking out all the interest and all the dividends that have compounded, and doing that over and over. And even in doing that, the one thing we don't teach, even in doing all of this, you still, in all these years, 50 years in this example, which puts this person way past the graduation date, okay, they never ever have less cash value than they do the loan with the interest. And then how did we figure all this out? Well, now I'm going to really scare all of you with the sheer amount of numbers. Here it all is. Okay, we did non-guaranteed. We did the net annual cash value increase year after year. We did the cash on cash returns up to the 10th year, because after that, it's an infinite return, essentially. We showed you the dividends each year. We showed you the cumulative dividends. We showed you the cumulative loan amount available. And then we actually showed the cash value line of credit. Now, I know none of you would want to, well, maybe one or two of you would ever want to construct this, but this is what our company does for every one of our clients. We build you the model. We would never build a model like this. This was a stress test, but we did this to prove to a CFP, a certified financial planner, that this will work for somebody if they are looking for a better place to warehouse their capital and they want to use that money to buy real estate, which is what this person's going to do. They're going to put money in and they're going to take money out each and every single year to buy real estate. And in this example, the CFP did not want to see any money being recaptured. The CFP did not want to see any interest being paid. I put a big disclaimer in the email I sent to them saying this is absolutely against everything we teach. But here you go. Even in the worst case scenario, ignoring everything we teach you to do, it works. So with that being said, I don't know how you can not see the mathematics behind this. In either one of those examples, here's the summary. You know, any of our clients, we do a cash flow statement for them. That is not something we will share if you get the recording of this and you want to use it. But now what I want to do, Stephen, what did you think of that?
Yeah.
We have never done that before. That's the first time. Brent, have you ever done that where you actually showed somebody stealing the peas from their grocery store every single day and their grocery store never goes out of business?
Yeah, Chris, no, you actually kind of scared me with that. My sphincter muscle tightened up a little bit as you were going through that. I was like, what? Don't pay back any loan interest. We always teach back to pay at least the loan interest back. But no, that just goes to prove the point to where when people say, well, yeah, but if you don't do this, the policy can crash and burn. And basically what you did is you just went through this example and you proved that the policy does not crash and burn based on what you just did. Now, however, and the thing, I know that this is what you stated, you know, this is assuming this is the dividend each and every year, which of course the dividends are not guaranteed, but every company that we use has been paying dividends for over 100 consecutive years. So the probably the accurate way when a client is going to do this is every single year, what we're going to do is we're going to get you an in-force illustration and we can see what your actual policy dividend is compared to what the projection is. But no, man, I mean, it was just based on the numbers that you used. I mean, it just goes to prove to you that this is a vehicle that's basically, even if you did everything wrong, which you did most everything wrong in this policy, you're still not going to screw it up, you know. But as Chris stated, this is never, never, never how we would tell you to use the policy, because the thing you always want to do is, even if you don't pay back the policy loan, which is fine not to pay back the policy loan as long as you have use for the money, but you should always pay back that policy loan interest each and every year. Because remember, okay, on the 3 rules, okay, so rule number 1 is pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. And rule number 2 is pay yourself with interest. So treat your money the same way you would treat a bank's money. When you borrow money from a bank to buy a car, a house, whatever it is, credit cards, you're expected to pay the bank back with interest. So you've got to treat your money the same way. If you don't, you're saying your money is not as valuable as a bank's money. So yeah, man, no, that was a good spreadsheet for people to see just how it still works, even if they do everything wrong. I don't know if there's anything else they could have done there that was more wrong than what you did, but it still works.
Yeah. And Stephen, I want to, thank you. I'm just kind of looking through the chats. Thank you for answering all the questions. that are coming in, and all of you, give a big round of applause with a thumbs up, a clap, whatever you want to put in, a hell yeah, whatever, for Stephen kind of going through answering the questions. Because, it's not just about us teaching or talking to you and showing you this stuff. It's also, the most important thing is that what questions you have as you're learning, they get answered, which is why Stephen's on here. He's diligently trying to make sure that you get the answers. He's fact checking stuff through Google to get you the right answers, like the dividends, like what's the actual definition of them, to kind of combat different things. And, and that's it. But here's the last part of what I want to go over today. And then we're going to just answer some questions for you. Is you just saw those examples, and I'm just going to kind of put it up on the screen one more time. I just want everybody to know what we're talking about. So here's what we're talking about: the smaller policy. Okay. 55,895 going in the first year, and then 5,800 going in each year thereafter. What I want to show you is by the math. Now we want to go into what would we actually teach you on how to do this? Because if what I just told you with that big policy was exactly what we tell you not to do, take money out, never pay loan interest. I mean, Brent's literally having cold sweats thinking about that. Like, oh my God, why would anyone not want to make deposits in their bank? Why would anyone steal the peas from their grocery store? He's having cold sweats about that, but that's not what we teach. Let me show you what we do teach, right? So this is your private bank. We already went over that. This is your bank, and your bank is where your savings goes. The money you keep, that 1/10 we put into your specially designed and engineered whole life, which provides all those things that we talked about when we talked about the perfect investment. Okay, we already know that. And then what we're going to do is we're then going to teach you or map out, just like I showed you with those maps, we're going to map out based on your situation. Not what we think, not what we want, what you want. Are you buying cars? Do you have debt? Do you need money for your company? Do you want to lend money out? All sorts of different ways. We are going to map out exactly what you're going to do with the money. And then we are going to take that. And actually, let me pin myself here real quick. Can you bring that camera in just a little? We are going to basically tell you then to take loans, and we're going to map it out. So first year, you put in 55,895. Now, depending on when during the year you take that money out, we're going to then take a loan. I don't care if it's a loan from the insurance company at 4% or a loan from your cash value line of credit if you have over 25 grand at 3%. So we can do it either way. Okay, we can do it either way. We're going to take that out, and that money is going to go into your regular bank account. We call them segregated bank accounts because you can't go from your private banking, the insurance company, directly to where you want. It's got to stop at a bank account. So we just open a new bank account that's solely there as a segregated account. Read the book, Profit First. That's where this comes from. Just to do books and records. So that's all this is, books and records. Where did my money come from and how much? And where did it go? Because, hey, some of you aren't so good with tracking money. That's why some of you actually think just because there's checks in your checkbook, there's money in your bank, which is not the case. You might have more checks, but your bank account's empty. So we got to have some books and records. So we're going to take out the maximum amount, 51,554. Okay. Now, each of you are different. Some of you would use this to pay down debt. Some of you would buy cars. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the ways I use this. First way is I have a business, several of them, and my businesses need money from time to time. All the time. Actually, my business is always in need of cash because the more money we make, the more money we put into marketing, the more people we need. That's how a business works. They always need cash. As you make more, you put more through your company. Well, on certain occasions, my business might need money that my company doesn't have from a cash flow standpoint. So what would I normally do in the past? Well, I used to go back to their bank and I used to take out a loan. I used to take out a line of credit. What I do now is I go back to my bank and I say, hey, you know what? I got 51 grand. Great. I'm going to structure a note, a promissory note from me to my business. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge my company interest. Now, how much do I charge? I charge 6%. I didn't come up with this number. Your number might be different than mine. I came up with 6% because I had a key bank line of credit, okay, that charged me 6.99%. Actually, I had a couple of them. 6.99 was the lowest. My CPA said, you know what? You can do this and we can take the deduction of the 6% if and only if it's cheaper for you to use your own money than it is to use the banks, because there's going to need to be some economic value for you doing this and using your own money versus using the bank. So I said, all right, well, 6 is better than 6.9. So that's my number. It's always been. So I loan that money to my business at a rate of 6%. Now, I can set any term I want. I can charge interest only loans. I can do an amortization of 3, 5, 10, 100 years. I'm the bank, so I set the terms. So I just amortize or structure it however I want. And I lend the money to my business. Now my business has $51,554. And what I'm going to do with my business is I'm going to go, and in this case, I'm going to buy a rental. Okay. And this is back in the day when you could use 51 grand to buy a rental. So just play along. In Buffalo, we still can. There's rare occasions where we can buy properties for 51. So we buy a rental property for $51,554. This rental property after expenses kicks off, let's just say $600 a month. I don't know, I'm just making this up. Okay, this thing's going to net us $600 a month. So what I'm going to do is, let's say this 6% amortized loan on 51,000 is $500 a month. I'm going to take from my company $500, and I'm going to put that money back into my bank as a loan repayment. I'm going to recapture the money because you know what? The only other option I have is I could take this $500 and I could leave it in somebody else's bank where the bank makes money and I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this $500 a month that I earned from the rental, from my money that I loaned my company working for me. That $500 goes back as a loan repayment. That loan repayment, every single one of those $500 payments reduces the loan balance, whether it's a line of credit like I use or from the insurance company. It reduces the loan, which means I'm paying less interest over time because the loan balance is going down. And what's happening to my $55,895? It's going up. It's compounding uninterrupted. This money never does anything but go up. I already showed you that. So don't ask how. I showed you the numbers. This number goes up. This loan number goes down. I make the spread in between, which if we did the math, 4 minus 6 is 2, 4 minus 3 is 3, plus whatever the spread is that I'm making on my policy. We did the math already. This is how I would teach it. So that's year one. So now I've got this going on. Okay, that was the first 55,000. But then the second year, I put in 58.95. $5,895 goes into my account, and that year I have $7,141 to use. So I take a loan for $7,141, but I don't need it for a rental. So what I do is I then loan the money to my company, and my company uses that to buy a new copy machine. So I have $7,000. I buy a new copy machine. And all I do is I just found out that the copy machine company would have leased that machine to me for $171 a month. That's how much they would have charged me to lease that copy machine that's sitting right behind James here. Okay, that's how much they would have charged me. So all I do is I buy the copy machine and I recapture $171 back. So this was $500 from the rental, which is the 6%. Okay, then I'm going to do this here. This is the copy machine, which is $171 a month. So now I've got $171 plus $500 going back into my bank, not their bank, where normally what would have happened, I would have given that money to somebody else's bank in interest and principal, and I also would have given it to a leasing company. So then that's the second year. Third year, and I know some of you are like, okay, we get it, but some of you don't. Some of you think you get it, but then you get on the phone with us and you're like, well, why would I pay interest on the loan like when it's my money? I'm going to bitch slap you. I am, because like, here's what we do. This is how it works. And we make a spread the entire time. I do this every year, and I could go on and on and on showing this, but you can see the next one, maybe I lend it to my company and maybe I use it for marketing. Or maybe I don't do any of this, because maybe what I do is instead of lending it to my company, we could kind of go in and maybe I'm just going to pay off debts. Oops, wrong one. Maybe I'm just going to use that money and we're going to go in and we're going to, God, I got so many examples. Cars, pay off, we're going to pay off debts. So maybe you've got debts and you're paying, this one you're paying 5%, your credit cards you're paying 20%, your car loan you're paying 3%, cell phone bill you're paying 0, or your cell phone loan you're paying 0, your home equity line maybe you're paying another 3. We want to get rid of all of these, pay your credit cards off, pay your car off, pay your cell phone off, pay your home remodel loan, pay the equipment, and recapture all that money into your bank. Takes time to do that, but hey, maybe that's your story. Doesn't matter. It's infinite in how you use the money. I'm just showing you the path. It's just a circle, folks. Your money goes into your bank, comes out of your bank, goes to work. And then that money at the end of its workday comes back to your bank. rinse and repeat day in and day out. Hey, every one of you, you get up in the morning, you get your coffee, you take a shower, you go to work. And what do you do when you're done working? You come home. Do the same damn thing with your money. Send your money to work every day and tell it to come home every night. Home just is your policy. Don't overcomplicate this, folks. It's just math. And I'm telling you, like, we didn't come up with this. We didn't create the math. We just show it and we teach it. The banks understand this. The wealthy understand this. If you don't, it's time to learn. And I think that's probably about all I got for you, folks.
Chris, that was awesome, man. Yeah, you nailed it. You hit it home there. So I think we open it up for questions now.
All right. I mean, I know Steven's been answering questions, but anything else that popped up? Does, any more naysayers, anyone not understanding this? Anyone want me to kind of hit on anything else? Listen, we're open books here. And if there's something we do wrong, believe me, we'll correct it. If there's something that's better, believe me, we'll adopt it. Unfortunately, for as long as we can think back, as long as we know, there hasn't been a better way than this. This is taking back control of your money, folks. The number one thing you've been taught your entire life to give up is control of your money. Stop, stop, stop. Okay.
Hey, Chris, Chris, I did see a question that was way earlier, and it was someone that asked, they said, well, how many years do I have to pay the premium before the policy will take over and just take over the premium itself? Well, I would just say if that's a question that you're asking, you need to go watch all of our teachings that we've done, all like the 70 plus videos on our website, all the Wealth Wednesday webinars that you've done, the 90-minute presentation, because that is like asking, how long do I have to make a deposit into my bank account? So can I stop making deposits into my bank account? You never, ever, 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 ever want to stop paying the premium in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends because of the growth. Exactly what you've shown. Now, again, okay, the person that asked this question, they asked it early on before you went through all those examples, but you never, ever want to stop paying the premium. As a matter of fact, I don't believe, now, again, I hate to say this for 100% fact, but I believe that we have never, ever had anybody that has quit paying premium that's been with us for 2 years or longer. Because unless you get in a severe financial catastrophe or disaster, and that happens in the first 2 years, you are never going to want to stop paying because of the growth inside of the policy. I mean, even on the example that I show on the 90-minute, I mean, if you get to the 5th year, all right, so every dollar that you put in, it spits back $1.30. That's a 30% increase on your money. How much of your money do you want growing at 30%, 61 months from now? I will tell you the oldest policy that I have is going to be, it's 13, almost 14 years old in February. This past February, every dollar I put into that policy, it gave me $2.09. So do you ever want that to stop? That would be like saying that every time I came to your house, Chris, every time you gave me $1, I gave you back $2.09. Are you ever, ever, ever going to want that to stop? Never. Never. You're always going to want to continue to give me $1. And the next year you give me $1, I'm going to give you back even more than 209. The year after that, a higher number. The numbers continue to increase, just like you showed in that example.
Yeah. So, it's, you nailed it. I mean, like, the thing is, there's definitely people that this won't work for. And that's the biggest thing I try to get out there. This isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to learn this, like Neil just said, he talks to people about this and they look at him with strange looks and negative responses. You're going to get that. And it's not because there's anything wrong with them. It's not because they're trying to be, dicks or jerks to you. It's just back to Will Rogers. The biggest problem in any country, but we'll say the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem is what they think they know that just ain't so. Those people that you just mentioned simply think they know what they don't know. They have arrived. Most, my only fault against, financial advisors is most of them think they know everything. They've arrived. There's nothing more for them to learn. Like, I'm open to learn. Like Bob on here. Yes, there was some negative stuff going back, but I'm willing to learn from Bob. And it sounds like Bob's willing to learn from us. He wouldn't have spent the time being with us today if he wasn't. And I admire that. Haters need hugs too. I made shirts for it. Like let's make haters like our lovers, like whatever. But you know what? There's always going to be people out there that don't want help. And good. Listen, like, you can't help everybody. I know we always, when we start doing this, the first thing we want to do is go tell our loved ones, our family, the people closest to us. And what do? Oh, that's a scam. Oh, I heard about that. That doesn't work that way. And we immediately either dismiss what we just learned as being a scam, or we start to say to them, this isn't a scam. You should research it. And then they don't want help. For some reason, our loved ones, those closest to us, they just don't take advice from us. Get over it. Listen, we have over 4,000 clients. I think like 4,200. We had about 500 a month. I don't know about Brent or anyone else, but hardly anyone in my family does this unless I pay the premiums for them. My mom, she gets it, kind of. She knows that when she's got credit cards, she just takes a loan and pays the credit cards off, and I make her repay her policy. She gets that, but she doesn't understand this. She would have never done this if I didn't do it for her. I don't help my father. I don't help my stepmom. I don't help my sister because they think they know everything. Good. Go do what you're doing now because it's obviously working pretty well because you're always bitching that you're broke. If you're bitching you're broke, obviously something's fucking broken. And it isn't the fact that you know everything. That's what's broken. Or I said that wrong. That's what's broken. You think you know everything and you don't. Open your mind. Okay. Like Will Smith in the very beginning talked. Be open to things. Go out there and solve people's problems. Spend your time focused on other people's needs and goals. And then your needs and goals will be taken care of. That's what we do day in and day out. Because I'll tell you something, folks, when I look at the commission statements, I promise you, for all of you that are clients, I don't look at that commission statement and be like, oh yeah, I'm buying a new Ferrari. I look at it being like, nope, $50. That's going to be, that's one more person I help. $20, $8. They're tiny little commissions. But once you help a lot of people solve their problems, your problems start to solve themselves. It just took time. Building wealth's a marathon, folks. It's for us. It's the same as it is for you. We're no different. We learned the same way you did. We dealt with the same negativity. We dealt with the same people telling us that's a scam. This isn't real. Brent dealt with it, with his wife. He kept telling her. And then finally, now his wife says, Brent, why are our marching green men not working? Brent, get on your shit and get that money working for you.
Absolutely right. That's what she says. She says, get the money in the policy and then get that money that's in the policy out in the workforce to make us more money. She calls the money the green men. She says, I don't want the green men just sitting on the couch doing nothing, eating potato chips. She says, if anybody's going to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, it's going to be her. She doesn't want the green men. So that's what we're doing. We're putting the money in the policy. And then from the policy, we're getting it out there in the workforce. No, exactly right. I saw a question come, or not really a question, but a statement. And it said, and anyway, he says, yeah, I'd really like to do this, but I just got a lot of other stuff going on right now. Well, a lot of other stuff. I mean, dude, look, there's always going to be other stuff going on. There will always be something going on in your life that you're not going to have time to do this or that. But this is about your money. This is about your wealth. This is about your family. This is about you creating, building, and keeping wealth for your family. The stars are not always going to be aligned. The star is not going to be aligned with the moon. The moon's not going to be aligned with the sun. There is never a perfect time to start. But I will just tell you, here's what Nelson Nash said. He said, when is the best time to plant an acorn tree? The best time to plant the acorn tree was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So the decisions that you make today are going to affect your life tomorrow. The stuff that you do today, the stuff that you implement, it's all about taking action. It's all about the implementation. You can think about what you want to do, right? But you have to take action. You have to implement. So the best time to start is today, because every day in the policy is going to get better. It's going to get better. It doesn't matter. Okay. It's not me telling you today is better than yesterday. Tomorrow is better today in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. And it doesn't matter where you're at with however much money you have and you start. I always say, Chris, it doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. Everybody needs to break the bonds of financial slavery they don't even realize they're in and start taking control of their own money. It doesn't matter how much you policy. I mean, start a policy for $100 a month, for $2,000 a year, for $50 a month, whatever number it is. And people say, well, I can't afford to do it. Well, the same people that say they can't afford to start are the same ones you see right after Christmas or before Christmas, before before the football playoffs at Walmart buying a big screen TV. They have the money. They can find the means to buy the big screen TV. The same people that say they can't start are the ones that are lined up in Starbucks every day getting their coffee. So just take that cup of Starbucks that you buy every day and put that into premium in your dollars, and you see the value and the growth, and you see what's going to happen. So don't use the excuse that I can't do it now, because if not now, when? When is there ever going to be a perfect time? You know, I mean, I don't think I should go on a diet now. It's just not a good time. You know, I mean, there's never a good time. I don't ever want to go on a freaking diet, you know, but I better go on a diet or I won't be able to button my pants, right? So it's about your wealth. It's about you keeping and creating and building wealth for your family.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just typing a message in here for somebody that was asking about what's the best design, and I just said it depends on the need. But
all
anyway,
right. So anyway, how about Stephen? Do we want Stephen to answer any of the questions live, or does he want to go through any? I know we're about out of time,
Stephen,
but is there anything?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. I think we've hit all the questions.
All right, if you like that video, make sure you check out this video right now. And also don't forget, subscribe to my channel, and don't ever forget to smash that alert button. We'll see you on the next one.